What makes a country real? The 4 criteria of statehood. Beyond Taiwan's shrinking diplomatic circle lies an even more fundamental question. How can a place with its own currency, passport system, and democratically elected government still be denied the basic label of country? The answer lies in a 90-year-old convention that established 4 criteria for statehood. And the 4th requirement creates a paradox that keeps places like Taiwan in perpetual limbo. Let's take a step back and consider what actually makes a territory an official country. You might assume that if a region controls its borders, has a stable population, prints its own money, and governs itself independently, these practical realities would automatically confer statehood. But international law applies a different standard, one that creates the unusual situation we see with Taiwan and several other places around the world. The foundation of modern statehood rests on the Montevideo Convention of 1933. This agreement established 4 specific criteria that a territory must meet to be considered a state, like 4 puzzle pieces that must all fit perfectly together to complete the picture of nationhood. First, a permanent population. Second, a defined territory. Third, a government. And fourth, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. While these criteria seem straightforward, their application has created a complex web of international politics that determines which territories join the exclusive club of recognized nations. Many unrecognized states easily satisfy the first 3 criteria. They have stable populations, clear territorial boundaries, and functioning governments that collect taxes, maintain infrastructure, and provide services to their citizens. The challenge emerges with the 4th criterion, the capacity to enter relations with other states, because this requirement creates a circular problem. A territory needs recognition from existing countries to establish formal diplomatic relations, but it needs those relations to gain recognition as a legitimate state. This paradox traps places like Taiwan in a diplomatic bind. They function as independent states in practice, but cannot secure the recognition needed to make that independence official under international law. The result is a system where certain territories exist in a peculiar in-between space, neither fully sovereign nor clearly subordinate to another power. The concept of sovereignty itself has undergone significant evolution over centuries, adding another layer of complexity to the statehood question. Originally, sovereignty was closely tied to monarchs who claimed absolute authority through divine right. The king or queen's rule was considered supreme within their territory, and their decisions were not subject to external interference. But over time, this understanding shifted dramatically toward the principle of popular sovereignty, the idea that legitimate authority comes from the people themselves. This transformation fundamentally changed how we understand the formation and recognition of states. Modern conceptions of statehood emphasize self-determination and the consent of the governed, rather than the divine right of rulers or the decisions of existing powers. Recognition in international relations serves 2 distinct but interconnected functions. Legally, it formally acknowledges a state's existence under international law. Politically, recognition can signal support, exert influence, or deny legitimacy to certain regimes or territorial claims. These decisions are heavily influenced by geopolitical factors. Strategic alliances, economic interests, and ideological alignments all play crucial roles in determining which territories gain international acceptance. This distinction between actual independence and legal sovereignty creates practical challenges for unrecognized states. Take Somaliland as an example. This territory in the Horn of Africa has a permanent population of approximately 6.2 million people, a defined territory spanning 176,120 square kilometers, and a functioning government that has maintained relative stability for decades. It holds elections, issues its own currency, and provides public services. By most practical measures, Somaliland operates as an independent state. Yet without widespread international recognition, it struggles to secure trade agreements, receive international aid, or participate in global institutions. The United Nations plays a pivotal role in this system as the primary gatekeeper of official statehood in our modern world. UN membership has become the gold standard of international recognition, conferring legitimacy and access to various international organizations and resources. But the path to UN membership is fraught with political obstacles, particularly for contested territories. The UN Security Council, with its 5 permanent members, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, wields extraordinary influence in this process. Any of these 5 powers can veto a state's admission to the UN, effectively blocking its path to full international recognition regardless of how many other countries support its claim to statehood. This veto power creates a situation where major powers can enforce their geopolitical preferences through the recognition process. China's veto power ensures that Taiwan cannot join the UN despite functioning as an independent state by any practical measure. Similarly, Russia can block recognition for territories seeking independence from its sphere of influence, while the United States and its allies can prevent recognition of entities they view as threats to their interests. The subjective nature of state recognition creates perhaps the most fascinating paradox in international relations. Places like Taiwan possess all the practical attributes of countries, while existing in a state of diplomatic limbo that prevents them from fully participating in the international community. This has profound practical implications. Unrecognized states must navigate complex diplomatic workarounds to participate in trade, secure visas for their citizens, and engage with international organizations. They often create alternative institutions and informal channels to compensate for their exclusion from official diplomatic circles. The gap between functional independence and formal recognition highlights the ultimately arbitrary nature of what makes a country real in the eyes of the world. While the Montevideo Convention attempted to establish objective criteria for statehood, the practical application of these standards remains deeply subjective and political.